Um, Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Steve Wright from the Office of National Fellowships and Scholarships and Alumni Memorial Scholars, and this is Renee Copperly. We are the staff there. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Professor Henke from the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. And Professor Henke is a specialist in courses on science and technology, the environment, and research methods, and that's why he's here today, to give us a clue about what to do with mostly sociological and social science types of methodology. He's also a member of the Environmental Studies program, so thank you for welcoming Professor Henke.
Thank you. Smattering of applause. Okay, well, thanks for coming out today. I know it's a Friday afternoon. It's actually a pretty nice day. It's sunny and warm, so you're to be commended for actually coming out today and listening to a lecture on social science methods. I'm assuming that you're all, I know Brian is actually not an AMS student, but is here because he just loves the idea of learning about this so much, right?
Yeah.
Are the rest of you all AMS scholars? Yeah? Can I get your names quick?
I'm Diane.
Diane?
Yeah. I'm Kenzie.
Diane and Kenzie.
Meredith.
Diane, Kenzie, Meredith, and Brian. Diane, Kenzie, Meredith, Brian.
Andra.
Andra?
Yeah.
A-N-D-R-A?
Yeah.
Okay. Diane, Kenzie, Meredith, Brian, Andra. Yeah?
Rachel.
Rachel? Diane, Kenzie, Meredith, Brian, Andra, Rachel. Okay, I'll forget that in 2 seconds, but it's at least a start, okay? So basically what I'm going to be doing is teaching in a way that I would actually never teach in a class usually. I don't usually use PowerPoint that much. I try not to just kind of talk and talk and talk. I'd rather have more of a back and forth. But basically what I'm trying to do today is to teach you enough about social science methods that you can do a decent job with your proposals. And that's presuming that you're actually going to be doing a proposal for a project that involves some kind of social science methodology. Especially things like interviews, surveys, or observation and participant observation are some of the things I want to talk about. And because I'm going to basically have about 90 minutes, and I don't want to use all of it just to talk, I want to have some time for us to talk with each other as well. And I'm going to be covering material that I normally would cover in about probably 8 to 10 weeks of class time. That means it's all smashed together, like super compressed. So that means I'm going to go through things kind of quick. That's why I call it boot camp. You guys know what boot camp is, right? Boot camp is when you go in the Army and like they have like 6 weeks to whip you into shape. Well, this is, you know, we don't even have 6 weeks. We have a few minutes basically if you add it all up, right? So we're going to be going through boot camp today for social science methods, and it's going to be quick. It's going to be messy because we aren't going to have as much time to go into as much depth as would be advisable, but that's what we have. So you certainly can stop me along the way, ask any questions you want. If I notice that people are getting pretty sleepy-eyed, it's actually a little warm in this room even too, we'll do push-ups. That's part of boot camp too, so be ready to do some push-ups. And I would say probably about a half hour in is my prediction, maybe even sooner, we'll be ready for some push-ups, so be ready for that. I should also emphasize that even though this is called social science methods, there's a lot of social science methods that I'm not going to cover. I'm not going to cover economic analysis. I'm not going to cover geographic information systems if you're like a geography major. I don't know anything about that stuff, and I don't teach about it. And if you wanted to do it as part of your AMS project, you'd have to find some other source of expertise on how to propose that. I'm assuming that if you would want to do that, it would be something that you'd know about from other courses, from being a geography major, being an econ major, or something like that. The basic idea behind this is that I've worked with a lot of students in AMS, well, some students with AMS over the past few years, and a lot of them actually have no experience doing social science methods. There may be a natural science major or a humanities major, and they want to do a project where they're going to go to X place around the world and find out about Y topic. But they kind of have this vague idea that, well, I should do some like interviews with the people there and find out about X and Y. Or I should do a survey and find out about this topic, but they don't have any idea how to do that. So when it comes to their proposal, in the methodology section of their AMS proposal, they're not sure what to do. So I thought it would be good to have something like this where I at least give you a rough idea of kind of how to think about a project and how to propose it in your AMS proposal. Okay? Yeah? So let's start then with the basic outline of what I'm going to cover. Like I said, I don't use PowerPoint that much, so you can see I don't have super fancy PowerPoint slides. It's all black and white and simple arrows and boxes and stuff, so that's about as jazzy as it's going to get. So if you're expecting some multimedia presentation with videos and YouTube and stuff, you're not going to get that. This is about as fancy as it gets. But we're basically going to start with how to ask a research question, how to develop concepts, how to sample for our social science project, how to actually collect the data through particular types of methods that we'll talk about, how to analyze it, and then results. And that's basically what we're going to do. Now, one thing you'll notice is that most of the time, a lot of times students actually start off at this step here, methods. They think, oh, I'm going to do some interviews. Oh, I'm going to do a survey and hand it out and see what people say. That's their idea of what the methods section is. And you'll see that actually there's a bunch of stuff that comes before that. So we're actually going to get to the methods eventually, but I think one of the things I really want to emphasize to you all is that there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of kind of planning that goes into these projects before you really get to the point of deciding if you're going to do an interview or survey, something like that. Is there anybody who's a social science major here? Nobody? No?
Mathematical economics.
Mathematical economics. So that's definitely on the, or you can do econometrics and stuff like that. You're not really doing interviews and fuzzy type stuff like that, right?
Right.
What about the rest of you? Science majors or humanities majors? Math, math, or math econ?
I'm undecided.
Undecided.
Art history.
Art history, right? Biology, right?
I'm undecided. Maybe econ or psych.
Okay, econ and psych.
So I'm undecided, but I want to create my own major.
Create your own major, okay. So who knows what it'll be?
Education.
Okay. So that's good to know. I mean, if it turns out that some of this stuff is stuff you've learned before in other courses, I apologize if we're going over familiar ground, but that's kind of what we're going to cover. So we start with questions. This is basically where any scientific project starts, right? We're always starting with a research question that's about what we want to know. And so a lot of times students start with something that's a lot more vague than a research question. You have something that you're interested in. Maybe you've actually read about another country or a program or an issue in a newspaper story, or read about it, learned about it in a class, or you've always wanted to travel somewhere. And so that's kind of something you have in mind for an AMS project, but that's different than a research question. Right? A research question is a much more focused, a much more specific idea of what you actually want to study, and something that you can actually collect data on and answer. So that's why we start there, because basically once we have that question defined, that helps us a lot. That's our friend basically, that helps us to follow through a lot of those steps that I mentioned before. We're going to have a lot better idea about our concepts, about who to talk to, about how to talk to them, how to analyze the data once we have that question in place. So that's really where we want to start, and it's going to help us a lot down the line if we can figure that out. So oftentimes the questions come from your own interests, maybe your career goals, things that you want to get done with your life, say a type of job or type of graduate program you want to do after Colgate. Or maybe you actually are part of a student group here at campus, all kinds of ways that you can get interested in one of these things, right? And types of experiences you might have, but in addition to that, I would say that a really good way to kind of focus on a question is to look at academic literature, look up resources about the particular topic or interest that you have. And this is something that I think is missing from a lot of AMS projects as well. We have amazing librarians at this campus, actually. Our research librarians are super helpful and very friendly. So one of the first things you ought to do when you're thinking about a project is go to the library, make an appointment with a research librarian, and ask them to help you look for stuff related to your interest. Once you see what people have written about it, you'll see the kinds of questions that they're asking and answering and how they did it. And that, again, if I go back to that slide that has all the different steps along the way, you'll see how they did it. It'll give you a better idea how to do it yourself. So you're not really reinventing the wheel, starting over. Hey, come on in, have a seat. You're not really doing it all over again. Obviously, there's lots of people on campus who could be your advisors about these types of projects. We have a lot of experts at Colgate about all different areas of the world and different topics. So those would be other good sources for you to make an appointment with a professor, ask around, see, you could ask Steve, you could ask me, people who know the campus and who's here, kind of who can give you some advice about a particular place you wanted to go to, a particular topic that you wanted to explore.